I start questioning it as why are they doing that? Just see whether it's purely for research or mainly for war. I mean, most likely for war, but if it was, I'd probably be against it.
That would be crazy. I can't imagine why they would have the incentive to do that, or who would give them the incentive to do that. And if they were to develop nuclear weapons, I think a lot of students would be extremely upset.
It is already developing nuclear weapons? I'm sorry.
Wow. I'm not sure. I feel like more people should know about it, I suppose.
I'd say business as usual.
I would probably take myself out of the system just because I didn't know about this earlier, and I feel like they should be telling me this before I, pay for my schooling. I don't want to be a part of that. No, I've never heard of that.
There are nuclear power plants in the state of California that need to be shut down because they're still in service. And that's BS,
There technically are 11th and 12th campus of the UC system.
The Los Alamos National Laboratory conducts research for the design and creation of nuclear weapons and technology. It was created in 1945 as a facility to house the Manhattan Project, which resulted in the production of the first atomic bomb. It operates under the U.S. Department of Energy, but is managed by the University of California and private companies Bechtel, URS, and Babcock and Wilcox. Along with nuclear research, Los Alamos conducts research in the fields of national security, space exploration, renewable energy, medicine, nanotechnology, and supercomputing. It has a federally provided budget of $2.2 billion annually and employs about 9,000 people. It continues to create nuclear weapons, but also does research in other areas like medicine. It is currently testing vaccines for the AIDS virus. The Lawrence Livermore National Laboratory is the only other lab in the U.S. that is involved in the creation of nuclear weapons. Founded in 1952 by the UC, it, like Los Alamos, is owned by the government and federally funded, but is operated by private contracting companies. Many of the same organizations that are involved in Los Alamos are involved in the lab, including the UC, Bechtel, Babcock and Wilcox, and the URS. The government gives the mission of the lab, but the private companies decide how to operate it. Although it creates nuclear weapons, its mission is supposedly to support national defense and hinder nuclear proliferation. The lab also conducts research in biomedicine, energy, and environmental science.
I think that the students are the ones that have to talk about it. They're the ones that have to say, I don't want this at my school, because the government's not going to do anything, and neither are the faculty, because they're being paid by the government. They're going to bite the hand that feeds you, right?
Yep.
I mean, I think it should be stopped. The question is, how is it going to be stopped? And certainly the university, time after time, has demonstrated that it's not willing to make it stop, insofar as the university actually gets quite a bit of its own income, I think, from this kind of nuclear developments. I think it was just last year, a year or two ago, we spent a lot of money to make sure that we got these contracts so that we can continue to be the ones that made nuclear weapons, insofar as it generates a number of income for us. So the university is not going to stop it. So it's going to have to be something that we as students and other parties and stakeholders in the university who are against this, we're going to have to actually take action to make it stop.
I feel like the best way we could do this is to protest and probably get a whole group of people going, because I know that I probably wouldn't be the only one that would be mad about this. I'm sure a lot of people would be like, what the hell is going on here? And I just don't think that a lot of people would support it, especially if there's not a good reason to be doing it.
Definitely.
The last decade has seen an ever-growing student movement at the UC to oppose the UC's involvement in the production of nuclear weapons, and to oppose nuclear weapons in general. Recently, a campaign entitled UC Nuclear Free was prominent at the UC campuses of Berkeley, Santa Barbara, Santa Cruz, Irvine, and UCLA. UC Nuclear Free hopes to persuade the university to cancel its contracts with the Department of Energy and to stop running the labs, and it questions the morality of the university. In 2007, more than 40 students from 4 UC campuses conducted the No More Nukes in Our Name hunger strike. The group fasted for 9 days to publicize their demands that the UC Board of Regents withdraw their management from the labs. The Regents have made no attempt to cut ties with the labs.
Yes, I do. It was with Einstein, or no, was it? Possibly with Einstein. Some major scientists gathered in Berkeley to develop the atomic bomb for World War II. And that's where they successfully produced it.
I do. It was during World War II when they invented the atomic bomb.
It was a project during World War II that culminated with the creation of the atomic bomb.
The origins of the Manhattan Project traces back to 1939, when Albert Einstein informed President Roosevelt that either the Allies or Axis powers could build an atomic bomb. Roosevelt, who feared the possibility of Germany being the first nation with an atomic weapon, ordered the organization of the Manhattan Engineer District to build an atomic weapon in 1942. Both scientists and military men served on the Manhattan District's Advisory Committee, with Leslie Groves as the head of the Manhattan Project, or Project Y, as its secret name. The Manhattan District drew up contracts with universities, notably the University of Califoria, to study atomic sciences and production processes with the bomb. It was presumed that a bomb could be made by an isotope of uranium-235 or plutonium, both of which were extracted at production plants where workers knew only enough about the operation to do their jobs. While they waited for plutonium and uranium to be delivered from the production plants, scientists, engineers, and technicians, led by UC Berkeley professor J. Robert Oppenheimer, gathered at the UC-managed Los Alamos to undertake weapon physics studies. On July 16, 1945, the first atomic bomb to ever be detonated was set off at the Trinity test in New Mexico. It was a plutonium bomb. Project Y was proved to be a success.
I do not.
Okay.
Yeah, he was the head scientist out there for the United States, like in developing, and like so many things are named after him. Oppenheimer, Oppenheimium. He's a really famous scientist guy, and he helped develop those bombs mostly.
Julius Robert Oppenheimer was a theoretical physicist and professor of physics at UC Berkeley, who is credited with many scientific contributions, such as the Oppenheimer-Phillips process in nuclear fusion. Today, he is best known as the father of the atomic bomb for his role in the development of the weapon during the Manhattan Project in World War II. When the bomb was detonated on July 6, 1945, Oppenheimer famously quoted the Hindu god Vishnu in the Bhagavad Gita, saying, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." After the bombings of Hiroshima and Nagasaki, Oppenheimer began to outwardly express his qualms about the use of atomic weapons in warfare. He and other scientists of his time stressed the need for an international organization that could prevent the onset of a nuclear arms race, which they felt could only lead to incredible destruction. The FBI had been following Oppenheimer's actions closely since the 1940s because he had shown communist sympathies during his time at Berkeley. After he showed dissent towards increased production of nuclear weaponry, the government had him testify to the House Un-American Activities Committee, a committee made in response to McCarthy's Red Scare. On June 7, 1949, Oppenheimer admitted that he had many communist ties while he taught at Berkeley in the 1930s, and that some of his close friends and relatives had been communists then. On December 21, 1953, Oppenheimer was told that his security clearance had been revoked because of suspicion that he was an agent of the Soviet Union.
No, I don't think so. I think there's like a number of ways. I think nuclear technology is something that I'm necessarily for. I think that there's a lot of ways in which nuclear technology is kind of advance past some of its previous pitfalls. If done right, it can actually provide really cheap energy for us in an actual really renewable way. My main issue, though, is that the development of nuclear weapons technology, which is primarily what these labs are doing, doesn't necessarily further that aim. It harnesses them for rather destructive potential as opposed to affirmative kind of ends such as energy.
Oh, well, the whole academic pursuit thing is just a cover-up. I mean, the whole reason that they're making these bombs in the first place is just because that's how they're getting their federal funding. Because, you know, the government doesn't want to fund education unless it can do so in a way that produces workers and that produces new tools for war. And that's exactly what it's doing right now. I don't want to get into morals.
Fair enough.
On the official University of California website, the UC claims that the Livermore and Los Alamos laboratories were established to serve U.S. defense needs. They continue today in new aspects of that mission, including response to terrorism and homeland defense. They also state that the laboratories contribute to the nation's economic competitiveness through partnerships with industry, and all are leaders in math and science education, helping to enlighten, educate, and train students and teachers. As for UC's involvement with the Manhattan Project, the UC describes the bomb as something that would help end World War II. They boost up Los Alamos for its contributions to national security as well as its contributions to the health sciences. They give no information about the use of nuclear weapons in Japan or to any of the controversies about the bombs created at Los Alamos. They fail to recognize the horrific human, environmental, and moral implications of nuclear weapons lab management.
I mean, the fact of the matter is we have so many nuclear weapons that have already been developed. I don't understand why we have to continue developing more and more, but there also is the reality of a lot of nuclear waste that we're going to have to learn of what to do with. You know, we're not going to be able to just abandon that. We're not going to be able to just abandon these laboratories. You know, there's a lot invested into this, but I think we can definitely do projects to slowly disassemble them. But it's going to be a long project.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think that shouldn't be picked up by another institution. The reality is, if the University of California did not choose to do so, it would have ended up in somebody else's hands, probably University of Texas, where our president, Mark Yudof, is actually from. If not, I think there's another private university that also tried to pick up the contract with a bid. So the reality is, even if we didn't do it here in the UC, someone else would. But the hope is that, you know, if we were able to start a movement that would end the UC's allocation and deployment of so many funds towards these kinds of ends, that hopefully students at other places would also pick up that struggle and also pick up that fight. So it has to start somewhere, and hopefully it can start here.
As manager of the Lawrence Livermore, Lawrence Berkeley, and Los Alamos Labs, the University of California and its employees have been involved in the design and production of every nuclear weapon in the U.S. arsenal, including those dropped on Hiroshima and Nagasaki in 1945. In fact, until 2007, the labs were operated solely under the UC system. The Lawrence Berkeley Lab was founded on the Berkeley campus in 1931. It became a federal facility in 1942. In 1943, the UC agreed to manage Los Alamos Lab for the federal government. After 60 years of operating the lab, the UC was offered a contract to manage the Los Alamos Lab as part of a limited liability corporation, which involved Bechtel, Babcock, and Wilcox, and URS. In 2007, the Department of Energy announced that Lawrence Livermore National Security would be the contractor for Lawrence Livermore Labs. The UC is federally funded, so the research at these institutions is meant to serve national interests, like defense. However, it seems that the UC may only provide guise of academic pursuit, while private and military interests may dominate the labs in reality. The UC's management has been extremely useful for the labs. As a prestigious university, the university provides an air of legitimacy to the labs, which has shielded them from criticism. Until recently, the UC's nonprofit status exempted the companies from federal taxation.